Good evening, and welcome back to our Parsha webcast. This week's Parsha is that of Pinchas, and in the portion of Pinchas there are a number of subjects. It opens up with the God telling Moshe that Pinchas was God was very happy with what he did. And we'll speak what he did was he killed Zimri for having cohabited with her. She wasn't Jewish, and we'll get into that a little later in the details of it. And he gave him the great reward of making him a Kohen. And then God tells Moshe Rabbeinu to take a census of the Jewish people to see how many Jewish families are left and how many individual people are left, because a great plague broke out as a result of the story with the Midianite women. And therefore, God wanted to see how many were left. And they did a whole census of all the families. And then the Torah begins to discuss the mitzvah and the order of how the land of Israel would be divided amongst the 12 tribes. And the last half of the portion discusses all the sacrifice, daily offerings, the Sabbath offerings, the Yom Tov. It goes through every holiday, what the kind of offerings they brought on every holiday. And with that, the portion concludes. It's a very long portion. It's actually the second to the longest portion in the whole Torah. But what we're going to do tonight is we're going to zero in on one Rashi that tells us the whole story, that clarifies to us many details of the story that happened in the end of last week's portion, and which this week's portion begins and continues that story. But before I tell you the Rashi, let me tell you the story. What happened? Well, who is this Pinchas? What did he do and why? So I'm going to read to you from the last few verses of Balak. I'll do it quick. What happened was Bilam was unsuccessful in cursing the Jewish people. So what does he do? He tells Balak, let me tell you where you can be successful in destroying the Jews. Their God hates promiscuity, promiscuous behavior. And if you can get them to behave immoral with non-Jewish women, you will then get their God very angry, and you'll annihilate them. So what do? They send into the camp of the Israelites many Midianite women of Moab, of Midian, and they took, and they seduced the Jewish men, and they caused them, in the heat of passion, they caused them to worship their idol, the Baal Peor, and they acted immorally. And a plague, of course, God did get angry and kill the Jews. There was a plague that broke out. And one of the tribes, Shimon, the tribesmen came to the leader of their tribe, a man by the name of Zimri, and they told him, look what's going on over here. We're all dying, and you're our leader and you're doing nothing. You're not trying to protect us. So what does he do? He takes a Midianite woman, a woman by the name of, what was her name again? Cosbi Bas Tzur. She was a princess in Moab, of Midian, That means that's how corrupt they were. They were so hated, the Jewish people, that they would take their own princess and send her in and let her be violated by the Jews So he took this woman and brought her to Moshe. And he asked Moshe, this woman is allowed to be married to me? Am I allowed to be with her? And before Moshe even had a chance to answer, he took her into the tent and he cohabited with her. And this happened in front of everyone. And the Jewish people were shocked. They all broke out in weeping. What a disgrace. I mean, imagine such a thing. Pinchas saw what was going on. So he told Moshe, didn't you teach me that a zealot, if you see a person cohabiting with a non-Jewish woman, the zealots may strike him dead. So Moshe said, you taught the law, go, In the words of the Talmud, he says, you brought the letter, fulfill what it says in the letter. In other words, so he took the spear, he went into the tent, he stabbed them both to death, and brought them out to the Jewish people to show them what he had done. And the plague ceased. That's how the portion last week ends. And this week's portion, God opens up the words, and I'm going to read it to you. God spoke to Moshe, saying, Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron the Kohen, turned back my wrath from upon the Jewish people, the children of Israel, when he zealously avenged my vengeance among them, so I did not consume the children of Israel in my vengeance. He calmed my anger, and that's why I didn't destroy them all, so I want to reward him. Therefore, say, behold, I give him my covenant of peace. And it shall be for him and his offspring after him a covenant of eternal priest. So God makes him a Kohen at that point, and his descendants. That's the story. Rashi tells us, the opening Rashi of this week's portion is the one we're going to analyze. This is going to be fun. I'm going to read it to you, and we'll dissect it. Rashi quotes the words of the verse. Please pay attention. Pinchas ben Elazar, Pinchas the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron the Kohen. Rashi comments, because the tribes were humiliating him, this Pinchas. They were humiliating him, saying, did you see this son of Puti? Who's Puti? Puti is a shortened form of Putiel. And who's Putiel? One of the names of Jethro. Because he was a grandson of Jethro. So they said basically, did you see with this son of Puti what he did? Who is this Puti? Whose mother's father, when in Yisro, fattened calves for idolatry. And yet he killed the prince of the tribe of Israel. How dare he? Who does he think he is? Where does he come from? What did his grandfather do? Fatten calves for idol worship. And he has the chutzpah to kill a leader of a tribe of Israel. Because they were humiliating him this way. So therefore, this is why Scripture comes and traces his ancestry to Aaron. Why does the verse tell us right here that Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron the Kohen? Because they were humiliating him, reminding everyone what his other grandfather did, his mother's father, that he's such a nobody, he's such a person, like, what's his yichus, what's his lineage? So the Torah says he's the son and the grandson, he's his grandson of Aaron. Understood? Okay. First of all, we're going to see, I'm going to teach you today a sicha, a essay that the Rebbe delivered in 1965, this coming Shabbos in Pinchas, where he takes this Rashi and dissects it with a magnifying glass. Every word has meaning. Every word is reason. There's a reason for every word in there. And I'm going to point this out for you, because the way the method is beautiful, and mainly what we learn from this is even nicer. First of all, what's bothering Rashi here? No, the Rashi is telling us that there was a zil. In other words, Rashi quotes a part of the verse, tells us. What does the verse say? Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen. What's the problem with these words? Why is Rashi even bother? Why does he have to make a comment on this?
He's a Kohen.
So that's good.
Right.
So what's the problem?
He's already a Kohen from his foot.
No, we know that he's not a Kohen.
Okay.
The Rashi doesn't answer that anyway. That's not what he's answering. He's not giving us an answer to that question. If that's the question, then he's not answering that question. He answers that later. If his grandfather's a Kohen, why is he not a Kohen? He answers that. But in this Rashi, what's the problem over here? Because, number one, just in the end of last week's portion, the Torah already, it says like this, Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron, the Kohen, saw, and he took the spear and did what he did. So 2 verses earlier, the Torah already told us he's the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron. Why over here again are you telling me that he's the son of Aaron, the son of... We know who he is. Just tell us Pinchas, the same Pinchas of 2 verses ago. There's not a new Pinchas on the block. It's obvious the same Pinchas. What's the reason the Torah has to once again tell us that he is the son of Aaron, the son of... Why are you giving us his lineage again? That's the problem. That's what bothered Rashi. And for that, he is given... That question he's answering in his comment. What's the answer? That the Torah wants to emphasize his lineage because the tribes were all embarrassing him, mocking him, his deed. Who does he think he is? Look what his mother's father used to do. He fattened calves for idol worship. So who does he think he is, killing a tribe of Israel, a head of a tribe? So the Torah therefore emphasizes, no, this Pinchas he has good lineage. He comes from Aaron. That's his main lineage. That's what the Torah wants. That's the lineage the Torah wants to emphasize. It's clear, right? Makes sense. Okay. But here's a number of problems. I'm going to point out 6 questions. 6 good questions. Number 1. Rashi says, because the tribes, who are the tribes? Which tribes? All the tribes. Were humiliating him. First of all, how does Rashi know that all the tribes were humiliating him? It would make more sense that the tribe of Shimon, whose leader he killed, they were enraged. That they were humiliating him. And the question is even further. It doesn't even make sense that the others would humiliate him. In fact, the others were happy with what he did. Why? How do we know that the others should have been happy with his deed? Because what? The plague stopped. And Rashi tells us just in the end of last week's portion, he tells us that when Zimri did what he did with this woman,
they were enraged.
They were all crying. They all wept at the desecration and in front of Moshe and the Jews. No one has an answer to this. Terrible. So here finally a guy comes and takes action and puts an end to this disaster. And as you said, he even quiets God's anger. And the plague stops. They should have been happy. I can understand if the tribe of Shimon were angry. But where does Rashi get that all the tribes were?
If they didn't stop him themselves, they're just as, even though they hated it, they're just as guilty if they didn't stop it themselves.
Stop what?
The
Zimri.
Right.
On the contrary, so I'm saying that they should have been happy with what Pinchas did.
Right, but since they didn't find
You're saying they had a guilty conscience that they didn't do the act, that they didn't kill him.
If no action is a statement.
Well, there was an action. Pinchas didn't act it. He did it on behalf of everyone, and they should have been happy.
And they were happy.
No, they weren't. They're making fun of him now.
Oh, they're still.
Rashi's saying that they're humiliating him.
Okay.
No, they're saying, look at who's this guy killing a leader of a tribe? His grandfather's fattened calves for idol worship. So that's question number 1. Understood? Good. The second question is, let's analyze, they're humiliating him, right? With what are they humiliating him? That his grandfather fattened calves for idol worship. What does it mean to fatten calves? What does this mean, by the way? He fattened calves for idol worship. He meant that they fattened them up, he made them fat, in order that he should be able to slaughter a good animal for the idol. Right? So that's what he did. Is that worse than idol worship itself? They could have simply said, your grandfather's an idol worshiper.
Right.
If you're trying to say what kind of a nobody you are, there's a much stronger case against Yisro, against his grandfather, and that he's an idol worshiper. Not only that he fatten calves for idol worship, he's actually an idol worshiper himself. And not only that, we learned earlier that he was an idol worship. He was a minister of idol worship. He was a priest for the idols. And he was a man that worshipped every idol under the sun. So if they want to look for something, a negative in Pinchas, is in his lineage, they have something much a stronger case against him. Why are they emphasizing that he fattened calves for idol worship? Question number 2 is understood. Question number 3. Over here, they're saying, Rashi emphasizes, and I'm going to read it to you again. They said, did you see this son of Puti, whose mother's father fattened calves for idolatry? Why didn't they just say his grandfather? What difference is if it's his mother's father's father? Who cares? That detail is insignificant.
His grandfather, you have to say from which side.
Whatever, it's obvious that it's not Aaron. Everyone's going to know it's not Aaron, I tell you. I mean, why does Rashi have to emphasize that? We know who it is. Just say his grandfather. What's the emphasis? His mother's father. You understand? Mm-hmm. Question number 4. Rashi says, this is why Scripture comes and traces his ancestry to Aaron. 2 questions over here. Number 1, why does Rashi have to say he traces his lineage after Aaron? Just say he traced his lineage. In other words, the Torah is over here trying to say he's a good man. He comes from good stock. So say, Rashi doesn't have, the Pasuk already said, son of Elazar, the son of Aaron, the Kayin. Why does Rashi say he traced his lineage after Aaron? We know he traced his lineage after Aaron. It's in the verse. Just say he traced his lineage. They're trying to emphasize his great lineage. And furthermore, why after Aaron? The verse says after Elazar, after the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron. And he cuts Elazar out. Rashi just, Elazar doesn't exist. He traced his lineage to Aaron. Why? Where's Elazar? His own father? He's a good man, his father. At that time, Elazar was the high priest. He wasn't just a nobody. Aaron is already not alive at this time. Mm-hmm. So who took over Aaron as the high priest? His father. So why is Rashi saying, it cuts him out? And another detail. What does the verse say? Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron the Kohen. What does Rashi say? Therefore, Scripture comes and traces his ancestry to Aaron, not Aaron the Kohen. Elazar is out. The fact that Aaron is a Kohen is out. Aaron. What's this? Why is he cutting out Elazar? Why is he cutting out the fact that Aaron is a Kohen? The Pasuk says, the verse made it clear that Aaron HaKohen. Rashi takes out the word Aaron the Kohen, which indicates that what Rashi is trying to tell us here is that the fact that the verse is tracing his lineage to Aaron is not because he's a Kohen. In other words, there's something about Aaron that the Torah wants to tell us here, not that he's a Kohen. There's some advantage, some great quality of Aaron, not that he's a Kohen, that's important over here. And that's why Rashi de-emphasizes the fact that he's a Kohen. What is that? What's going on here? Am I over your head?
No.
Okay. Then there's a general question in this whole thing. They're all humiliating him, right? Who are you? Your grandfather fattened calves for idol worship. Let's analyze this a minute. Why was he permitted to kill him? In other words, like this. If they agreed that he had the right, the halachic right to kill him, then what's your problem? You agree, he did the right thing. What's bothering you? And if you don't agree he had the right to kill him, then accuse him as being a murderer. It's much worse than the fact that his grandfather was fattened calves for it. You're a murderer. It's either he's a murderer or he's not. If he's a murderer, emphasize that. If he's not a murderer, he did the right thing. Then what's your problem? What are you humiliating him altogether? What's bothering you?
So they're not humiliating him.
They are humiliating him. But the fact that his grandfather's fattened calves. But but the question here is, one second. The question is, if I see you do something, and I say, who are you to do that? It's either I don't agree what you did. If I don't agree with what you did, then I should scream at you for what you did. Not that you have a bad grandfather.
Well,
and if I don't have a problem with what you did, what am I emphasizing your bad grandfather? What's that got to do with you? You did a good thing.
Maybe they're trying to say, look at this guy. He did what he did, even though he comes from such a terrible background.
So they're not humiliating him. On the contrary, no. But the Rashi says they humiliated him. They were humiliating him. They were deriding him.
Half an hour.
Huh?
What's the answer?
Oh, here comes the answer. So here we'll explain this whole Rashi. So this whole story.
How does it come to the conclusion of the humiliating him?
It's a medrash. It says that. It says in the medrash that they were humiliating him. The answer is like this. What bothered the people in this act of Pinchas was as follows. I want to present to you the scenario. Put yourself in that situation. The Jews are in the desert. There's the high priest. There's Moshe Rabbeinu. There's the 70 elders. There's the whole Jewish people. There's the temple. It's, right? The Mishkan, the tabernacle. They're all there. Man comes with a Midianite woman and does an act that is just unbelievable, brazen, in front of them. He went into the tent, but it was essentially in front of everyone. And this young guy, Pinchas, comes and does what he does. How does that look? Try to analyze this. How does this look? Moshe has no idea what to do. Elazar, the high priest, is lost for words. The 70 elders, no one knows what to do. This young guy takes action. It's almost like, it's like the leader of the Jewish people doesn't do anything. No one knows what to do. This guy, it's almost like degrading to Moshe Rabbeinu what happened over here.
Why do you expect Moses to kill him?
To speak up, to say something. He's quiet. He's some schnook is taking over. This whole scene doesn't bide well for Moshe Rabbeinu, for Elazar the high priest. Where are you guys? Such a desecration of God's name is taking place in public. You're quiet. You're not doing anything. You have to have a 20-year-old do. 20-year-old Zealot should come and do it. The whole thing is degrading to Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what was bothering the tribes. They weren't here to protect the honor of the condemned, of the one that got killed. That's not what bothered them. What bothered them, what they were offended over here, was they were trying to protect the honor of Moshe Rabbeinu. Who's this guy to stand up in front of Moshe Rabbeinu, do what he did? Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't know what to do, only you know what to do. This whole thing doesn't look right. The scene doesn't make sense to them. That's why it wasn't only the tribe of Shimon that degraded Pinchas. All the people degraded Pinchas because what they were trying to stand up not for the honor of the one that was killed. If they were standing up for the person who got killed, that would have been the tribe of Shimon. But they were protecting Moshe Rabbeinu's honor. One second. To them, this whole scene didn't make any sense. It's an embarrassment for our great leader.
But he didn't overstep and he asked for permission.
He told him, didn't you teach us the law? It's also, Moshe forgot the law, the Torah tells us. It says Moshe forgot the law. It slid, it escaped him. And Pinchas reminded him the law. You understand what happened? It's even worse. Moshe forgets, Pinchas is reminding him, and he says, go do it. The whole thing doesn't look right. So they say, wait a minute, who's this guy? So that's why, first of all, the whole Jew, there was all the tribes. Rashi is right when he says it was all the tribes, because what Rashi is trying to say is not that they were worried about Zimri that got killed. That wasn't what bothered them. He deserved to get killed, and everyone recognized that. They were upset at Pinchas for they were protecting the honor of Moshe and Elazar and the Ayin and the 70 elders.
Overstepping Moses.
Exactly. What did they say? Oh, here they come up with an interesting thing. They said, let's take a look at this Pinchas. Who is he? Who's his mother's father? Yisro, what did he do? He fattened calves for idol worship. Today we live in a world that, animal rights, right? People are very sensitive to animals. They should treat animals well. You should, today veal is a whole big, controversy. If you should eat veal, even if you're a meat eater, some people will not eat veal. You know why?
Mm-hmm.
No, not because it's a baby. Because the way they force feed them, it's a whole, you don't know what I'm talking about?
They don't let it move
No,
around,
they don't
so
let it
there's
move around
no
so that
muscle.
it becomes fat, so the meat's tender, so the meat is good. The animal is in a cage for his whole life.
Goose,
Hmm.
same thing.
You know that?
No.
You know that veal cutlets, next time you go to the restaurant.
Vegetarian.
I have to tell you that I once heard that the rabbi, the Rav, the halachic personality in Crown Heights, was Rabbi Zalman Shimon Dvorkin, passed away in 1985. My father once told me that he said that if he had the power, he would prohibit eating veal because of this. He said he would never go out against eating meat because the Torah is, that's. But this is already, this is crazy.
That's good.
He said, no, I don't have that. But what did Yisro do? He would fatten calves. You'd feed it good, right? Give it good food with the intention to kill it. How cruel do you have to be to do that?
They do it with turkeys in the United States too.
They do it with
No,
meat.
yeah, they do it with veal.
No, they do it with other meat.
No, but he's saying
No, you have to feed. No, we're
purposefully
talking about
fatten
purposefully.
Yes,
The
they
animal will
do.
eat as much as you give it. So if you pour food to an animal, it'll
Yeah.
eat everything.
No, but the point is, it's
I
like
do
you're
that.
telling. It's like when you want to kill someone, you don't want him to know that you're killing him, so you're being nice to him first, right? I'm treating you well, and then you give him in the back. How cruel is that? It's even more cruel than just killing. Killing alone is cruel, but showing that person a smile and giving him good, trying to feed him and make him feel good and to lure him in, to be comfortable with you, who's going to kill him. That is the ultimate cruelty. So they said like this: this guy comes from a grandfather, his mother's father, who's cruel. The man's a cruel man. He probably inherited that nature from his grandfather. And he's coming over here now, killing a person, saying that he's a zealot for Hashem. I'm not so sure he's such a zealot for Hashem. I wonder if this person is not a cruel person that likes to kill. And he found an excuse that he has the right to kill halachically. So that's what they were saying. They were saying, wait a minute, who is this guy? And that's why they didn't emphasize the fact that his grandfather is an idol worshiper. Because first of all, two things. Idol worship doesn't emphasize so much cruelty. And second of all, the fact that his grandfather was an idol worshiper, he believed in an idol, doesn't mean the grandson inherited that negative belief. Beliefs don't go over, don't pass on in the genes. But negative nature does. Negative nature does. Right? A streak of cruelty, a person's cruel, that could be passed on to the next generation. So they're saying, wait a minute, this guy is not such a big tzaddik. He jumps up and kills someone. Wait, let's analyze this guy. Does he mean it? Is this an act for God? Or is this just an outlet for his negative nature that he inherited from his mother's father? Why his mother's father? Rashi emphasizes his mother's father. Remember that question? Why his mother's father? What difference does it make? Just say his grandfather. Because you inherit more from your mother's side than from your father's side. No. Let me correct that. Yisra's negative nature, they're saying, if you're going to analyze, you have two grandfathers, yeah? You inherit more from your mother's father than you do from your father's father. Why?
The religion.
No, forget the religion. I'm talking about nature. Because the Torah tells us that it's not the Torah that tells us, but the rabbis tell us, it says in the Gemara, that in the creation of a child, it's hinted in the Torah also, that in the creation of a child, when the man emits seed first, the child will be a female. If the mother...
That's in the Torah.
Yeah. If the mother emits first, then it will be a male. Mm-hmm. So now, the father gives birth to his daughter, this Pinchas' mother, and the mother now gives birth to him. So that's almost like a direct line to his grandfather. The inheritance he's getting from his grandfather is more through his mother than through his father. So Rashi is emphasizing this point. They're saying his mother's father, that's who he really is. He inherits more from his mother's father. What kind of guy was he? A man that had a terrible nature. He would feed a calf in order to kill it. What kind of cruel person you have to be to do that? This, that he didn't kill Zimri in front of Moshe, is not zealotry for God. It's an expression of his negative nature that he has. He's a wild guy. He's just a fanatic, a tzedreiter. He runs around killing people. He probably, over here, he found an excuse, he did it. It doesn't mean God. That's what they were saying. So what does the Torah say? Comes the Torah and says, Pinchas is the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron. And Rashi leaves out Elazar and he leaves out the Cain part, right? He leaves out Elazar and he leaves out the Cain part. How do you answer this claim? He's cruel? Torah says he's not cruel. He's grandson of Aaron. You know who Aaron is?
Peacemaker.
He's a peacemaker. The Torah tells us that Aaron was a man that went around between husband and wife when there was a quarrel, they weren't getting along. He would go and make peace between people. The Torah emphasizes to the point where when he dies, it says that the whole people wept for him for 30 days. Even more than Moshe. Moshe 7 days. Aaron 30 days. They mourned for him for 30 days. Why? And not only the men, but everyone. The men, the women, the children. Because everyone loved him. He was a man of peace. He helped people. He heard two people were fighting. He would go to one and say, he really wants to make up with you. And he would say, things that not always were 100%, to make peace. Oyev Shalom, the Mishnah says Aaron was a Oyev Shalom, he loved peace. V'reidev Shalom, and pursued peace. He loved people. Oyev Sabriyas, he loved people. He loved everyone. There was no distinctions. So the Torah is saying, you're telling me that he inherited a negative streak from his grandfather, from his mother's father? Let me tell you who he really is. He's Aaron's grandson. It's not important that Aaron is a Kohen. That's not the part that the Torah wants to emphasize here. The Torah wants to emphasize that he has a peace-loving nature that he got from Aaron. Think about it. There's one more detail important. If they're saying, they were deriding Pinchas, because he was the son of the grandson of Yisro, which was an idol worshipper, then the last thing the Torah would say is he's the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron the Kohen. then the Torah would, to answer that, the Torah would emphasize more that he's the son of Elazar. Not so much Aaron. Why? When in the story of the golden calf, Aaron was involved. He didn't worship it, but he was involved. You know the story of the golden calf and Aaron's involvement. So the antidote, the answer to this, to the claim that he's a grandson of an idol worshiper, you would probably want to emphasize more that in this case he's the son of Elazar, more than the grandson of Aaron. But that wasn't what they were saying. They were saying he's not. They weren't emphasizing Yisrael's idol worship. They were emphasizing his negative streak. So here the Torah says, no, he's a grandson of Aaron. Aaron is a man of peace. And that's the quality that Pinchas inherited. This did come from his zealousness for Hashem. Because on a regular day he was a man of ultimate peace. He loved peace. He was a gentle man, Pinchas. What's the lesson for all of us? Well, there's a number of lessons that could be learned from all of this. Number one, when you're going to be a zealot and stand up and do something that is what people would consider extreme, it'd probably be a good idea to do an inner search within your own psyche and your own nature to see where is this really coming from. Is this, some people are hotheads because they're just their nature. They're extreme, they do extreme actions not because they're trying to be zealous for Hashem and to stand up for truth and stand up for the ultimate, for godly morality. And sometimes it comes from a negative streak. And the people and people are going to examine you when you do extreme behavior, when you act in an extreme fashion. Sometimes we need to be loud. Sometimes we have to stand up for what's true. And sometimes we have to take extreme measures. Of course, everything within the realm of possibility. We don't kill and we don't do these things today. It's not a possibility. We don't have the right to do that today. But there's other times that we need to take a stand. And you have to be extreme. You have to examine yourself. Where's this extremism coming from? Is it coming because my soul is on fire? Or is it because my negative nature is on fire? Because I'm just a hothead. And the test to know this, by the way, is how do you know if a person's acting for Hashem or he's acting out his own nature?
He wants to show off.
No. If he's doing this all the time, a person that's extreme always, he's probably acting out his own nature, and he's probably better off, you don't have to be the one. But if he's a person that's gentle, he's a person that's peaceful, and a person that loves people, and that's his real nature, and that's how he is 90% of the time. That's his history. But sometimes you see that in a moment of truth, an act of zealotry is needed, and he stands up to it, he rises to the occasion, you can know that this is not coming from a negative streak of some grandfather that fattened calves. It's coming from his good nature. And in this case, the good nature has to manifest itself in taking action for Hashem's honor. On the other hand, the lesson is, not every time you see someone doing something, you have to right away deride him. He's a faker, he's a hypocrite, he doesn't really mean it. Maybe he does. The people in this case were deriding Pinchas. Who does he think he is? The first thing they did was, he's probably not honest. He doesn't mean it. It's not altruistic. There's got to be some ulterior motive. That was the first reaction to him. And that's the first reaction many people have towards others. When they see a person excited about a mitzvah, they right away deride him. Leave him alone. He's overexcited. He's one of these. You right away deride people. They don't mean that really. And that's not right. Because you don't know. You don't know what's going on in someone else's heart. Give him the benefit of the doubt. The Torah teaches us that this is the one act of zealotry that takes place in our Torah. In the 5 books of Moses, this is one act of zealotry that the Torah tells us about. And the Torah tells us he was good. He meant it. It came from a good place in his heart. It came from his neshama, not from his animalistic side. But we're too quick to say it comes from his animalistic side. We just, we don't believe in people, especially when they act extreme. We right away dismiss them as crazies, as wild, as fanatics, as hotheads, as this, as that. Don't be so quick to judge another person that way. He has a grandfather, Aaron. He comes from that. That's his real nature. But the sign is, if a person's always being a hothead, is always being extreme, then it's probably not such a good idea. To measure your actions, no question about it, but sometimes we need it. Sometimes we need it to stand up. In the story, I should correct myself. There are some other acts of zealotry that were taken in the Torah in the time of the golden calf. When Moshe called upon the Levites to kill their own brothers if they worshipped idols. Their own family members, not their own brother, but the family member that was an Israelite that married in, because the Levium, it says, weren't guilty of that at all. But it says they killed 3,000 of their own tribes, their own families. But they did it because Moshe said to do it. They were guilty of idol worship, so they killed them. So that's also an act of idolatry. And God and Moshe over there says, I need people to stand up now for the truth. This is a real moment of crisis. We need the loyalists to come and make a statement. And they did. So Pinchas, turns out, it says that the neshama of Pinchas was later reincarnated into Eliyahu, Elijah the prophet.
How do they know that one?
Yeah, it says Pinchas Eliyahu. His neshama went into Eliyahu, and that's Pinchas. That's Eliyahu. And who's Eliyahu? He's the great angel, the prophet. Comes to every one of our seders, every one of our brisses. He's always, we all know him. That's Pinchas. You look at the text, think who would ever want to have anything to do with a guy like that today, especially in our world today. But it turns out God has a different opinion about these things. And the Torah emphasizes Pinchas is God's man. And God gave him the covenant of peace. He emphasizes how peaceful he is. Son, the grandson of Aaron. And that's why Rashi leaves out the fact that Aaron is a Kohen. Because the fact that he's a Kohen is not important, is not the point. So that's the story over here. And with this I'll leave you.